Oh, hello. I'm Mikey from JMK Custom Works. Today's video is going to be about a little head. 1/12 scale to be exact. I'm going to show you how I painted a 1/12 scale Billy from Predator head. I'm going to show you paints, brushes, and a little something extra, a little technique. This project goes out to Bear 11 Charlie. So if you're out there, that's for you, pal. Let's get into it. Okay, so this is the base head. This is a resin cast of a 3D printed head. So with the 3D print comes lots of little nubs from how it prints. So when you break it off of that base, you get these little residual nubs. So I'm just going to shave all those off and soften up some of the edges. Use a little 240 grit sandpaper. And I have already painted this head with just a single coat, just to make it a little easier to spot the flaws. So like I said, we're just going to soften some edges, take off those nubs, clear out the crevices, flatten down some of the groove lines that come with some of the 3D prints. This is just hot glue on a bamboo skewer. You can get them on Amazon. Kislev Flesh by Citadel is what I prefer to use for the flesh tone. It's a good base flesh tone. Most of the time, it's good enough by itself. You don't need to shade. With Billy, we will shade, but we'll get to the very end of that. So this color is a Dryad Bark. This is a Citadel color. Usually I thin out the Citadel colors with a little bit of airbrush thinner. But with this one, because you're covering such large areas and there's not a lot of fine detail in the hair, I opted just to use it as it is. Now this brush I'm using is an 1/8 inch angular shader. This one's of the Master Touch brand. I get those at Hobby Lobby. And this brush, the triangular black brush, is an Army Painter Wargamer Kalinsky Masterclass. Ordered that on Amazon. It's a good small detail brush, long bristles, holds a little more paint than some of the other detail brushes that I use. And we're just going over the headband in a Death World Forest, another Citadel color. For the hat, the base layer is a dark green, and this is a Model Master color. So Model Master has actually been discontinued. So what I have here is from probably 4 or 5 years ago, and thankfully this is one that hasn't dried out, so I took the opportunity to go ahead and use it. They're a really good paint. They're already pretty thin. So you do need several coats to get the right coverage, but really good paint. I really miss using them. There are some other paints on the market that offer a wide selection, as Model Masters did. Model Masters did such a great job offering specific military colors. Lots of World War II colors and international military colors. They were really great. So I'm glad I still have some, but they won't last forever, and I will be forced to move on, unfortunately. So this is a Duncan Rhodes Painting Academy 2 thin coats white star. Now for the eyes, I do thin these down quite a bit because I want it to sit in the recesses of the eye and sit inside of the eyelids. And the brush I use for this is an Army Painter brush. It's called the Wargamer the Psycho. Really, really fine detail. For the irises, that is a Thondia brown, and that is a Citadel color, and we're using it for the irises as well as the camo for the hat. So this is another Duncan Rhodes Painting Academy 2 thin coats, Doom Death Black. I really like this brand for the white and the black. They're pretty new, so they don't have a lot of colors, but their white has really good coverage, and I like their black quite a bit as well. So here we're just touching up the eyes, adding pupils, and then using white to make sure the rest of the eye doesn't have any run over or anything like that. And then, like I said, the retinas themselves. And then just touching up the headband that Billy has under his hat. In the movie, his headband is actually the same camo pattern as his hat. It's the U.S. military woodland camo, which was used from the 80s through the 90s. But to give it a little more contrast, I just left it green so that it stands out from the hat itself. And like I said, for the camo, the brown, we're still using the Thondia brown, which is what we use for the irises. And the shapes of the camo pattern is kind of a fluid shape, but there are some sharp points. You can get a good idea of the shapes by looking at just, Googling a picture of the woodland camo that the U.S. military wore for a couple decades at least. So with this camo pattern, as well as most camo patterns, the shape specifically isn't as important as the ratio of colors. So with the woodland camo, brown and green are about 50-50, but later we'll get into kind of a tan color, which is like half of that, and then black, which is about half of that. So I'm just going to go back through and kind of thicken up some of those shapes, get that ratio right. Okay, so this is just a good old Testors. This is flat olive drab khaki. Like I said, the Testors and Testors Model Masters are pretty thin paints. So you can apply thick, or you can just do several thin coats. With camo, it's kind of tricky because of the intricate shapes that you get into with it. But you'll see with this, I do a couple of coats to make sure it's got nice coverage. Look at this picture of this camo. You see the tan kind of sits around the edges of the brown, and then in some parts kind of spills into the brown patch. So that's really all I'm trying to do here. These patterns of the tan, or in this one, this olive khaki color, kind of longer, thinner patterns than the brown. And then moving on to the black, like I said, the black is the least amount of representation on this camo pattern. So you're doing very thin little wasps of the black. For me, I just kind of pick a side and I start filling in the black, and then I move to another area, start filling in the black. And then you'll see several times in the video that I roll the head and look for spaces where it looks like there's an absence of black, and then you'll just add a little bit to it. So what I like to do is kind of paint the outline of the shape and then refill the paint and then fill it in. Is kind of how I take the technique for this. That way, if you get a little paint where you weren't really planning to get paint, you just fill it in. Like I said, the camo has points as well as soft edges, so it's really just kind of striking the balance. But that is why I use the Psycho brush for that. Now moving on to the headband, which we're going back to the Death World Forest, which was the same paint we used for the headband. So the headband, same color. And then on these boonie hats with the woodland camo, there's a little bit of a border on the edge of the hat to prevent fraying and such like that from the different layers. So all I'm using is the side of the brush and running a kind of a piping around the border of the hat and making sure that that light green rolls into the side of the hat. So this right here, this is a wash that Citadel offers. It's the Agrax Earth Shade, so it's kind of a brown. And what I'll use that for, I'll apply it, as you see, very liberally here. It's a wash, so it's very thin, and it will rest in the recesses of the sculpt. So that's how you'll get a little bit of depth in the hair, as well as being able to shade everything down and make it a little darker. These are chalk pastels, so I'll use these for shading as well. So I've got a light brown, a black, and a dark brown that I'll use for this. And I'll just use the edge of the chisel tip X-Acto knife and just create shavings. And then I'll use a stiff bristle brush and apply it on top of the paint. Since this is a chalk pastel, essentially what you're doing is coloring on top of the paint layer. So you can change the shade, hue, the tone of the paint underneath. So since Billy is a Native American character, he has a darker complexion. So we'll use the browns to change the hue of the skin tone. And then here I'm going to remove a little bit, just using a little bit of water to remove the spots under the eyes, where in the movie, Billy had the paint on his face. So I'm going to mix a little bit of the chalk pastel with a little bit of water, and then dab it on so it gives it a oil paint look under his eyes to get that signature look. And there we have it. We're going to go back with gloss coat and hit the eyes so they stand out. They catch a little shine. That's it. That's Billy from Predator. We run into the midnight star. Wheels go round and round in my mind. Restless heart, sleep alone tonight. Turning all my love along the wire. They say that the road ain't no place to start a family. And right down the line has been you and me. And love and our music, man, ain't always what it's supposed to be. And oh, girl, you stay on my me. Oh, forever yours.
Hey, hey. Uh, a different project. They're working on a list of cover songs for Michael McDonald. You know what? Never mind. Anyway, thanks for watching the video. Hope you like, share, subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, take it easy, okay? Thanks for watching. If you like that, be sure you like, share, and subscribe, and follow me on my socials, JMK Custom Works. We'll see you next time.